We'll get back to more questions, but I want to get into the bank here, Pete. And, just let's start with Jackson Cantwell, because I know he's already committed, but I checked in with sources just like, all right, now we got the guy. Let's talk about what you really liked about him, stuff that just mattered internally besides the obvious stuff. They think he's the most physically powerful prospect in 15 years, right? The best shot putter in America, one of the best shot putters in high school ever, and someone who benches 500 pounds as a 16-year-old with 33-inch arms, 6'7". I mean, that's pretty unusual, right? So I think, and big hands, the power in the hands is absurd from the shot put, and it all translates on the field. So most physically powerful prospect in 15 years, super smart. One thing that sources relate to me is they were very impressed with the way Cantwell handled some of the questions that he got at his press conference. They're asking him tough questions about NIL. There's national reporters writing big stories on him. He's on the front of everything. Hey, there you go. Shout out Los Bomberos. Appreciate you downtown, man. I know you guys are working to keep this city safe. I worked I still work in the Brightline building, so I pass by that station all the time. So appreciate you. Appreciate Los Bomberos, the firefighters, everybody working to keep this city safe. Listening downtown. Appreciate you guys. So with Cantwell, to answer those questions the way he did, which if you haven't seen that press conference, check it out, what he committed. And he's taking these questions. He's turning on the reporters. He's carrying himself like a pro, and like a good media pro, not just because not all pro players are good with the media. He's carrying himself like a media savvy pro, did amazing. And he's just a super smart guy, 33 ACT as a freshman. But on the evaluation, like they say, he knows that he has work to do in pass protection. But when he settles into football, Mirabal coaching him up, how conscientious this guy is and his physical tools, they think it's going to be a very, very quick transition to get him ready to where he needs to be. Whatever his ceiling is, which is a very high ceiling, they know he's going to get it. One thing I want to add, because we talked about the power numbers, we talked about the size, the length, the intelligence, all those unique measurables. 4.7 in the shuttle, right? So for a 6'7" tackle, when you're in that 4.7 range in the shuttle, that's moving, especially when you combine it with the unusual power that he brings. So really a special package of traits when you talk about Jackson Cantwell. So that one's done. They feel they're confident he's going to stick, and they're over the moon, as you can imagine. I'll go position by position here. It's not going to include everybody, but it should be a pretty comprehensive look at what we're looking at with the bank. Quarterback, done. Darion Coleman. That's the quarterback. Running back, Javion Mallory, committed. Other two names in the mix. Jay Lamar, who's from Moultrie, Georgia, Colquitt County, Georgia, which is the
home of Nikar,
home of Bonner, Kamal Bonner, the linebacker that just came in from NC State. So Miami's a little bit of a foothold there. It's a small town. He says these are all his cousins. When you're in a small town like that, everybody kind of has some sort of family connection. So that gives us, I think, a better chance with a blue chip SEC back like Jay Lamar, with all the SEC big boys after him, top 10 back in the country. And then Derek Cooper is, like I said earlier, he's priority number one just overall in the class. I mean, Jay Lamar's, all these guys are high priorities, but Derek Cooper being local, you can't miss this dude. So Georgia's after him. Ohio State's after him. We visited him right after we got Jackson Cantwell. He commented on Jackson Cantwell's commitment post. There's, an awareness there of what Miami's doing. But that one's going to be a battle. I think Miami will get it done, but they need to get it done. So we'll see. Cannon Pickett on the offensive line is the name I think to watch as far as who's still out there. I would keep my eye on Cannon Pickett as someone Miami has momentum with, someone Miami wants badly. They're battling Clemson. Clemson was crystal ball there for a minute. I think they still are, actually. But Miami's made a lot of ground up there. He's a legacy kid. Miami's been recruiting him forever. I think Miami will ultimately get that one done, and that's going to be a pretty nice offensive line. We talked Joel Irvin, Congdon, Jackson Cantwell, J.J. Sparks, and then Cannon Pickett there on the inside. That's a nice little group. So I think they'll be able to get that one done, and that's a high priority in the offensive line. Wide receiver, Calvin Russell, we talked about, high priority. Just got offered in basketball. So Jay Lucas just offered Calvin Russell in basketball. That's going to help tremendously with his recruiting. So keep an eye on Calvin Russell. Vance Spafford, a guy, you don't hear his name a lot with the Canes because he's committed to Georgia. Small, I say small, he's not tiny, but he's a smaller slot receiver from from California, but is like elite speed, elite talent from Mission Viejo. I mean, this guy's what's he ranked? He's number 9 receiver in the country, number 75 overall player, 5'11", 175, big time speed. He's in the 10.6 range in the 100 meters. As a sophomore, caught 83 passes for 1,500 yards, 22 touchdowns. I mean, this guy's just supremely talented, man. I saw him in the 7-on-7s when he was a sophomore, I want to say, and he was burning everybody, burned raw 7-on-7 with all those Dade County guys and all those good national guys. So Vance Bafford, he doesn't get talked about a lot. He's committed to Georgia. He's from California. You say, is this the kind of kid that goes to Miami? Visited unofficially this summer. Loved his unofficial visit. I believe he said it was his best unofficial visit. Do not sleep on Vance Bafford. Jason Lopez, the star two-sport athlete from Chaminade, one of our favorite players. He's still in the mix. Of course, Tristan Keys, number 1 receiver in the country. He's still in the mix. Braden Robinson from Texas, speedster. Messiah Hampton from New York. All guys to keep an eye on. I'm leaving a couple of guys out, but those are, to me, some of the big names to know at wide receiver. Tight end, I got some interesting news. We could take 3 if they all want in. So don't be shocked if 3 tight ends get in this class, which is a lot, but these are versatile players. So you're talking about the 2 guys we talked about a ton. Hezzy Kemp from Brunswick, Georgia, the big 290-pound freak show. Zach Turner, the kind of H-back, really more of a big receiver, but he's 225 plus, I think, already. So he's going to have enough size to play as an H-back tight end from Duncanville, Texas, Dallas area, really talented fast receiver. And then Izzy Briggs from California. That's a name that Miami's recruited hard for a long time. He recently came available with a decommitment from, I want to say, one of the California schools. Let me just confirm that. But he's a 3-sport athlete, track star, basketball player, 6'5", a little over 200 pounds. He was committed to he's from Redwood, California, so up there in northern Florida. Yeah, he was committed to Arizona State, and then he decommitted. He's going to visit California. He's going to visit LSU. He's going to visit Texas A&M, and he's going to visit Miami on June 16th. Keep an eye on that player. He's a stud and really, really talented. So you could see 3 tight ends if they all want in. Defensive end, Ashari Charles from Venice, Florida. He's crystal ball to Miami. Got a great shot there. Tank Jones from Alabama. Guy to keep an eye on. Name that has not been mentioned here anywhere, I don't believe. Cozy Opala from Houston. Very talented defensive end. Let me pull up the specs on him. But he's a talented defensive end from the Houston area. Mady Creek, 6'2", 230. Got a crystal ball to Texas, Baylor, Houston, Penn State. The schools you'd expect to be in the mix there, but Miami is one of them. Also ran track. This is a guy who also had carries, right? He was a running back. So he's a really talented player, very versatile, the kind of guys you see develop at NFL players.
I wonder if he's related to your boy KZ Okpala.
Could be. Could be, man. Could be. I watched way too much of that guy's summer league performance. But yeah, so he's one to keep an eye on. Cozy. Jaquez Wilkes. Jason Taylor visited him over there in Alabama. We talked about this kid. He visited unofficially this spring. He likes Miami a lot, man. I saw this kid. He's in practice. It looks exactly the way you want. Very, very talented. Another guy that can play offense, can play defense. Just one of these freak show edge players with a ton of versatility. You always see these guys when you look back in the NFL draft and you watch their high school clips and they're doing a little bit of everything. He's one of those guys. Daniel Norman, super talented, big defensive end from St. Thomas, just kind of scratching the surface, local kid from Aquinas, and then D'Anthony Lafayette. That's what you're looking at defensive end. I like that room. I think I like that board. I think we got a shot at some of those guys. Defensive tackle, Vodney Cleveland, Deuce Geralds, Kendall Gorville, and James Johnson from Fort Myers area. Lamar Brown, the recent 5-star, he visited this spring. Keyshawn Stencil heard we had a real good visit there. We saw him in the spring evaluation. He looked awesome. And then Bryce Perry Wright from Buford, guy that can play end, but really probably going to grow into a 3 technique. I think he's in that 5-star conversation right now. He's someone that visited and Miami likes a lot. Linebacker, Jordan Campbell's committed from Northwestern, which we'll talk about in a second. It's becoming a powerhouse here with Teddy Bridgewater. Jermichael Garrett, he's right there on the board. Justin Edwards, guy to keep. We've not heard his name mentioned. Julian Manson, right? So Julian Manson is a name that I don't think we've talked about on this show, or I haven't heard his name mentioned anywhere. He is from Iowa City, Iowa, 4-star player, number 1 player in Iowa according to the composite. Obviously, Iowa's in the mix there, but Miami's after him. 6'4", 215-pound athlete. Minnesota is also in the mix there, but if he wants to get out of that area, Miami will happily give him a home. J.J. Edwards from Orlando, we talked about him. Juju Barnes from Neville High School in Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana. Same hometown, same high school as Will Campbell, the guy that just went to the New England Patriots in the draft. So he's somebody that I don't think we've talked about, but he's a name to watch, Juju Barnes. Adam Boligan Ali from Palm Beach. They're going to watch him today, I believe. This is a spring evaluation period, so a lot of guys are getting seen here across the country, but Miami likes him, and they're checking him out in person. Xavier Griffin, who just decommitted from USC, kind of the annual USC decommitment. They're on him hard, or they will be on him hard. They're on him hard already, but they'll continue to be on him hard. We'll see what happens there. They'll take their shot. Cornerback, you got commitments from Xavier Edwards. Xavier Edwards. I'm watching too much Marlins. From Jalen Waters, from Jalen Waters from Sefner Armwood, Jontavius Wyman from Atlanta, Georgia, and also Clinton Portis' son, up there in the DMV area. Actually, I believe he's in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte. I was going to say Charlotte, yeah.
Charlotte, North Carolina, sorry. All competitive. I will say that Jalen Waters, they saw him in spring doing their evaluations, and they think he might be the best corner in the country. Samar Matthews is up there. We're still poking around there, but they think Jalen Waters is a day one type, competitive, nasty, giant, can run, can find the football, can tackle. I saw him at the overtime 7-on-7 with Javari Flowers and Portis and a bunch of other guys, and I thought the best one by far in that tournament was Waters, and that was before he was committed. I was just like, man, this guy, he looks different. His size is just unique, and he's aggressive as well, and he can run. So put that on there. That's kind of a day one type player. I mentioned Samar Matthews, Chauncey Kennan. We saw him in person from Sarasota Booker. I would say the guy to keep an eye on from this list, Brody Jennings, Michigan commit up there in Jacksonville, brother of Bradley Jennings, who was a Miami Hurricane linebacker. Miami loves Brody Jennings. Some other local names, CJ Hester from Cocoa, Danny Odom, another Florida cornerback. So those are some names at the cornerback position. We already got 3 guys committed, but you'd like to add one more there. Safety, Devin Jackson from Orlando. We talked about it in the past, kind of combine freak, decommitted from Florida, right there at top of the board. Blake Stewart, Miami really likes Sam, saw him in spring. Jacob Eberhardt from St. Louis, who visited this spring. 220-pounder, kind of like that safety linebacker combo. Also played receiver in high school. I think he probably start at safety, but ultimately maybe grow into a linebacker. He'll get a shot at safety if he comes to Miami. But I like him a lot. He's one of my favorites. And then Nate to keep an eye on at safety, to Darius Hughes at Northwestern. Local kid committed to FSU. Local sources are telling me this guy's really, really improved this summer, had a growth spurt, just starting to look like top end, high end safety prospect. Miami will see him in the spring game tonight at Northwestern. So keep an eye on that player, to Darius Hughes. And that's the board basically. Again, I'm missing some names. Those are some names. Those are really the names to know. I asked, I wanted to find out who really stood out on these spring visits, because Miami, this is a spring evaluation period. So they're getting out there and they're seeing guys, right? They're seeing players, and it's a huge opportunity because a lot of players physically, mentally, skill-wise grow a lot from their first exposure to the spring exposure, right? This is the important part about continuing to evaluate players, because they're not finished products when you first lay eyes on them as juniors. So you want to know who is who and what is what. So Keyshawn Stencil, I thought these are guys that really impressed on this tour. Not an exhaustive list, but just some guys that really stood out on the visits. Keyshawn Stencil, defensive tackle. Brody Jennings, we talked about, from Jacksonville, the corner. Darion Coleman, the quarterback commit. Joel Irvin, the offensive lineman from Fort Myers. And I've said it before, to me, this guy is a 6-star. I mean, I think this guy's every bit as talented as Jackson Cantwell. He is elite, man. We are so lucky to have this dude. The fact that he's I don't get mad about 247 dropping Cantwell to 10. He's still a 5-star. Everybody's gonna have their own opinions. Joel Irvin being a 3-star is malpractice. It is negligence. It is completely insane. Anybody that looks at Joel Irvin and puts 3 stars next to his name is watching a different sport than I'm watching. Joel Irvin could have never played football and just said, hey, I'm going to play football, and looked how he looks and move like he moves and talks like he talks. To me, that would be 4 stars just off rip. So And the fact that his film is good. So insane to me that a guy this smart, this big, this athletic is not a 4-star player. He should be a 5-star player, in my opinion. I know other schools, big schools, college football playoff, high end, like elite of the elite schools have been out there and said, this guy's insane, and so the big schools are getting on to him, but he's committed to Miami. So that's one. Hezi Kent, our favorite Superman, the big tight end, 290-pounder from Brunswick. I heard he looked really good. Bryce Perry Wright, the defensive tackle, defensive end from Buford, looked good. I mentioned Jalen Waters looked like a day one pick. Danny Odom, the corner. Devin Jackson, the safety. Calvin Russell, wide receiver. Like I said, he just got a basketball offer. That recruitment, I feel good about the direction it's going for the Canes. He got the basketball offer from Jay Lucas. His best friend, Malachi Toney, had a great spring, played a ton. That makes a big impression that he's able to come in and make a big impact. You got the number one recruit, so there's just momentum kind of with the team. You had great passing production last year that he saw the whole season. It's not like he's already committed when Cam Ward's throwing all those passes. He saw all that already before he made his commitment. So I think Calvin Russell's a guy to watch. Syracuse has always been strong there from a relationship standpoint, from a basketball standpoint, but Syracuse stinks. They just lost their top receiver because who wants to be there? So I'd keep an eye on Calvin Russell. Blake Stewart looked really good when we visited. Vance Spafford again, the wide receiver from Mission Viejo, California. Put that name on your radar, Canes fans. That's a big time battle looming with Georgia where he's committed. Defensive end Ashari Charles, we're in a good place there. And then I mentioned Jaquez Wilkes, the jumbo athlete from Alabama. Those are some names that just looked real good on our spring visit. So that's the bank, man. That's what we're looking at, and it's going to key up this recruiting season. So you better be liking and subscribe to this show because we're going to be on daily, giving you the absolute latest, in recruiting, in everything. But recruiting is going to be hot and heavy for the next few months before we get to camp. So like and subscribe to this show, and yeah, man. If you want to recruit some lunch, recruit some breakfast, recruit some of the best Cuban food on the planet Earth, Islas Canarias Croquetas. You already know. 40-plus years of serving Miami, Florida, winning award after award. Best croqueta in Miami, best Cuban sandwich in Miami, best Cuban restaurant in Miami. I'd say best restaurant in Miami, right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. It's been in the old brick and mortar big restaurants out there in Tamiami, but they've moved to a very convenient, or they've opened a new convenient location here, right there in the Dining Pavilion with all the classic items of the big restaurant. 7 different types of croquetas. Empanadas, handhelds, desserts, pastelitos, all kinds of things. You can get that at Islas Canarias.
I just noticed a new one I've never seen here. Buffalo cauliflower croquetas. Interesting.
Yeah, there you go. I'm telling you, man, they got the stuff for the people like me, man. They got everything. They got the old me and the new me taken care of. JT, send me an email, CanesInSight@gmail.com. It says we're hiring writers. Always interested in people, want to write and contribute to Canes Insight and show their talent. So send me an email, CanesInSight@gmail.com. And any inquiries anybody has, whether you want to advertise, whether you want to put out content, CanesInsight@gmail. That's the best way to reach us. We're always ready to talk to people. So anyways, man, that's the bank. Any reaction there, Pete?